Hello and welcome to the Telegraph studio. I'm Alistair Greener and today we're going to be discussing how organisations can avoid being victims of cybercrime. And joining me is Joseph Carson from Arellia. Good morning.
Good morning, Alistair.
Now, every single week a sensational hacker story seems to hit the headlines. So are we actually in mortal danger?
Yes, we are. In fact, cybercrime is the greatest threat to all organizations in the world today. For example, it has the potential of actually causing catastrophes with critical infrastructure by shutting them down. And in fact, many organizations are probably already breached today. The good news is that if you detect a breach early enough, it can actually avoid disaster.
So what does a breach actually look like? Is there a process or a procedure or pattern that we should be aware of?
It's a very good question. I think the best way to look at a breach is to really look at the different stages of an advanced persistent threat. It uses multiple techniques in order to attack organizations. So for example, there's the reconnaissance phase, which is really learning about the organization and target, then followed by gaining access, either through social engineering, through phishing scams, or through system vulnerabilities. The next phase is pivot building, which is really discovering information about the network and the organization. Then the most crucial stage, which is the privilege escalation, which is the difference between having access to a single system or having access to the entire organization's network and data. It's then followed by actually maintaining access, either by installing applications and tools to be able to come back into the organization again. Then when that happens, it's the malicious activity, modifying and poisoning data or stealing data, and then covering your tracks to stay hidden. What's actually shocking is that on average, it takes 205 days for many organizations to detect a breach, mainly because they're not actually looking for them.
So 205 days to detect a breach, that's a long, long time. So let's say an organization has been breached. What can they do to turn around the situation and actually take control?
Correct. So an organization really needs to take a holistic view at their security. For example, when you have a breach, you really need to understand, first of all, does that breach have impacting your business operations, or does it actually have access to sensitive data? Once you've determined that and your incident response is then underway, you then need to make a decision. Do you actually allow the breach to continue and learn and observe, or do you actually make the crucial decision into unplugging systems, stopping the breach immediately? After that, you then eradicate it, and then you're followed by the recovery process to get your business back up and running.
Is the solution only about technology though?
Absolutely not. It's actually a combination of both security awareness training and technology together. For example, if you look at the actual typical breaches, more than 50% of breaches are caused by human error. More than 50% of actually users use the same password across multiple accounts. And also 23% of people click on phishing email scams.
So what kind of training do we actually need to introduce, and what sort of subjects would be surrounding that?
The training that we actually really need to adopt is actually, first of all, really providing a good understanding to our employees about cybersecurity awareness. It's then followed by helping employees being able to ensure that when they're actually using online social activity, that they actually have better understanding about data privacy, how to keep their personal data more safe and less visible. It's then followed by things like ensuring that they actually have better password choices. For example, using password phrases. And then, where possible, using two-factor authentication and enabling it. And then followed by being able to identify things like phishing email scams or social attacks. And once you've done that, then it's the final step, which is actually being able to report a cyber incident once it's occurring.
So if I work with you, how's your organization going to help mine avoid these threats?
Arellia helps in multiple ways. For example, with advanced persistent threats, I mentioned the multiple phases, the multiple stages in those techniques that's used. Arellia helps actually protect against one, is being able to discover and actually reduce the privileged accounts and administrative accounts in an organization. Two, we actually help organizations being able to prevent the gaining access and actually mitigate the maintaining access of those threats by actually applying things like application whitelisting and application intelligence. And then thirdly, we actually help organizations by actually being able to discover those systems or vulnerabilities and remediate them. Then, finally, we actually then take our intelligent data and send it to the organization to help them provide a holistic view in their security posture.
We seem to be in a permanent race to stay ahead of these cyber criminals. So are you optimistic about the future, that we can actually stay ahead of them?
Yes, I'm very optimistic. For example, if we really take action and do things today by, for example, training our employees in cybersecurity awareness and actually implementing technologies and solutions that help mitigate the multiple stages of advanced persistent threats, I believe that we can avoid catastrophes. We can actually be able to make our companies safe and our employees safe at both work and at home.
Well, you've certainly given us a lot to think about when it comes to cybercrime, as you say, at home and at work. Joseph Carson from Arellia, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alistair.